us their safety. As we are about to have this press conference, as the Lord will share the blessings of us, and the oil of favor will continue to be with us. Just want to thank you for everything. Thank you for life, thank you for family, thank you, Lord, for taking on us. Let your name reign forever. We ask this prayer for the name and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister for National Security, the Acting Deputy Chief of Police, the Assistant Commissioner for Police, both of them, Moses and Maxime, and the other officers of high rank, as well as the members of the public and the media. Thank you very much for being here. The Ministry of National Security, I know you're very familiar with our modus operandi and our interactions with the public. And this is another press briefing to update the public on the recent going-ons of the police. I don't want to say too much because we do have the speakers here who are going to give their reports. But I will call on the Honorable Minister to do a little bit of an opening for us, and then we will proceed with the other speakers.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, all. Good morning to the Deputy Commissioner of Police, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Maxime and Moses. I recognize other high-ranking police officers, all Timothy and others, members of the leader fraternity, Dominicans listening and maybe viewing, I'm not sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We're in the Korean festival spirit, so there has to be a sense of more energy in the room. Let me again acknowledge the President of the Cabinet Secretary, and thank you very much for your support you have given to the Minister and the Ministry thus far. I want to take this opportunity firstly to recognize the effort of the police officers so far in trying to clean the street of legal violence. Let's put our hands together. I want to make some general comments this morning before you listen to the Deputy Commissioner of Police and the other officials within the police force. And to say to you that your government is committed to public safety and peace. And that's the mission of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, consistent with this policy direction and mandate. I want to give the public the assurance and to actually introduce the concept of the nation. And not only the concept, but the tradition of peace that we have enjoyed in this country. And we are known historically, regionally, and globally to be a peaceful country. And that is why the mission of the ministry, therefore, going forward, is to promote and to maintain that tradition and promote and to maintain public safety and peace. Public safety and peace. And to say further, the incidents of gun violence that were witnessed in the recent past, while they are cause for concern, and we should be concerned about those incidents, but we should also guard against the obsession of those events and incidents, because those incidents certainly do not define us as a people. And that is why your government, and with me as a minister for now, is steadfast in ensuring that the police force is provided with all resources required in order to stop the escalation of gun violence in this country. Therefore, going forward, I'm declaring that gun violence is the number one concern and threat to our peace and our tradition. And therefore, it is my obligation as a minister and duty as a Dominican to ensure that the police is equipped with the personnel, the resources to go after and to jam the brakes quite hard on all the players involved in the syndicate of gun violence in this country, once and for all. And to maintain that tradition of peace that we are known for globally. As we traverse into the Creole Festival, and we invite people throughout the world to come to the #1 destination to enjoy themselves. We have a very impressive lineup. It is important for all of us to play our part to maintain that peace. Let me just take the opportunity, therefore, to call on all of us to take a very serious view of gun violence. And a number of people have been calling on the minister and the government to do more to address gun violence and gun crime in this country. And when a more serious approach is being taken to stop the incidents of gun violence, the same people who have been calling for more to be done, they're calling me and messaging me asking the question, who is in Dominica? What purpose are they in Dominica for? Let me just say, therefore, that this unserious and hypocritical approach will not assist us in assisting the police to do their work. I mean, let me just say, whereas the public right to know is important, but the public does not have the right to know every aspect of national security issues in the country. When that happens, we compromise the operations of the police force and thereby putting lives and innocent lives at risk. Let us reiterate, the public doesn't have a right to know every aspect of national security of the country. And the minister, as a minister, I have an obligation to the public safety, the public interest, and the national interest of the country. And there are certain things I cannot and will not share with the public. And therefore, if we are serious, and that is why going forward, Madam PS, we shall be going to the point where seminars will be able to be organized for training for media personnel as to how do you go about reporting matters of crime and national security issues. It is very critical because you too have a right to inform the public, but fundamentally, you have a responsibility to the public interest and to your country. I believe that I need to say that and make it fundamentally clear that this unserious approach and this double standard that some of us practice and undermining, seeking to undermine and obstruct police operation, when you have double standard, the consequences you face will double. Let me just make it clear. My vocation is to law and order. That is how I want to public life. And all of us must therefore, who have tasks and who are paid to perform certain tasks, must show that level of gravitas for that task for which you are paid. So, what have we done as a government to ensure that we confront gun violence unfundable? And I haven't said that. Let me just repeat. What we're trying to do is to prevent an escalation to a level that is almost parallel to that of things in other countries. We don't want that. Let me just remind you, why we must be concerned, we must guard against the obsession. Because if we obsessed over an incident, we may behave like it's an everyday phenomenon. And that is where the element of trepidation, the element of fear emerges. And what's going to happen? They're going to be scared to go to the market. That will not happen in Dominica. What we have done so far as a government, in the press conference, not last week, but previous to last week, with the Prime Minister of this country, in reference to some of the intervention that his government will be undertaking. Starting, as the Minister was mandated by law, formation of the task force to deal exclusively with firearms that has been established. We have to ensure, because the whole issue of confronting gun crime, we have to ensure that the members of the task force are of the right caliber, so that operations cannot be compromised, or you try to mitigate against the compromising of operations. As we speak, the ministry, of course, the Permanent Secretary of the Instruction and the Minister, to actually, on behalf of the government, to seek assistance for the polygraphing of every police officer in that unit. As we speak, they are on island, and that is being done. I'm also giving instruction that if you're polygraphing the members of junior ranks in the task force for the fire, in the drug squad, in special branch, in the various departments, the gazetted officers to whom they report have to be polygraphed also. We have to have that sense of seriousness in law enforcement. So we're hoping, and I want to thank our regional partners and international partners for assisting us in providing the professionals on island and doing the various tests, and because that's critical moving forward. I also want to say that we have also established what we call an anti-illicit firearms interagency investigative unit, comprising officers from the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, the Custom and Excise Duty from the investigative unit, who have been providing tremendous support. And I want to take this opportunity because this fight can't be fought and won by one set of people. The custom officers, especially those working in the investigative unit, are doing a tremendous job. Let's consider all of them. Through their diligence, a number of firearms are continually being intercepted. We also have established, which I gave approval to a couple weeks ago, a specialized unit for community policing. Because whereas a number of folks who are 60 years and 50 years and 40 years were involved in the illegal farm syndicate, they have made up their mind so to do. They're not going to stop. Unless sadly they're caught, they go to jail, or sadly that's going to come to them too soon. But we have to ensure, because we're also going to need, apart from the law enforcement intervention, we're also going to need sociological intervention, affirmative action, the engagement, the broader engagement of the community and members of society to save our vulnerable groups, especially our young men who are being used as mules. And I am happy that the community policing unit have been going out and partnering with various agencies and individuals and experts on the public and the private sector. There shall be a national outlook, and I'm calling on the churches, the homes, on all the agencies of socialization to partake in that endeavor, because it cannot be fought by law enforcement intervention only. But fundamentally, the threat has to be confronted, and that is why we're providing the police force with the resources to go after men and women involved, and to actually apprehend those who are responsible. Also, I cannot give details of granular details, of the training, but in the recent past, tremendous training has been provided to our police officers in various forms of firearms investigation. They are now better equipped to investigate and to trace aspects relative to illegal possession and trafficking of firearms. I want to commend again, express on behalf of the government, the support for impacts and all the other agencies and all internationally and regionally, names I will not mention now. On the 27th of this month, I will not give the absolute detail, but you will see the commencement of work that will significantly enhance the capability insofar as surveillance is concerned in Dominica. If we're going to be successful, the effort has to be effective on ground and sea. And we must be able to see what is happening on our seas. And the need for water platforms by disabling boats. I want to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the government of the United States of America, who will be providing us with the various assets. They provided us with a new boat. We have gotten some issues so far, but in due time, deputy, and I'm hoping that, as I said, the boat is on the warranty, that can be resolved. And to complement what I just talked about in terms of our intelligence, we'll be getting a good and very quick interceptor, and to ensure that we confront the threat from all fronts and to provide police the tools of trade that they need. We'll be getting later this month for the assistance and instrumentality of impacts, the equipment that will allow for the police officers in Dominica to fire the ones that have been used when recovered, either in trafficking and may have been used to commit crime. So that equipment will allow the police to capture the reading of the ballistics. We have actually gotten assistance and pledge to train 2 young police officers of the foundation in that science itself, for forensic science specific to gun investigation, and that person will be able to testify as a professional. And what those people that we're looking at in the one person, and I hate to use the word persons, that's not the word. And so, that happened to the police deputy and the commissioner, who was incidentally on some family emergency, have given me the commitment, and Moses is there by the end of this month. We'll be able to identify and put everything in place for the 2 officers who will be going to trainer to pursue a 2-year intensive forensic science and course that will allow them to come back. And so all this I'm talking about, the equipment that will allow the police officers to fire and capture ballistic readings are precursors. They are precursors to we have in next year our own forensic lab. That is how serious the government is taking this matter. So no longer will we have to depend on sending our firearms, etc., for ballistic reading and interpretation and analysis to either Dominica or Trinidad. All this is doing. We also, you have heard from the Prime Minister on reference was made to a number of shootings, drive-by shootings that have taken place, and people are traveling sometimes with the firearm. They use rentals. So we have engaged Mr. Anthony Laron. There was a first draft for ensuring that the rentals, the tint, what we call dockers, is of a particular percentage that allow the police to see all the occupants. All. And also special license plate for rentals. And so Mr. Aaron has been given instruction by the minister, and he has said that we get it before, but the deadline is October 6th to get the final draft So you can go to Parliament, the time for talk is over. And we know, from what I've been told by the police and others, the rental owners are already making plans to use non-licensed this number in order to trick the police. That too will be dealt with. And we also have to think, because there may be an attempt by those who are committing the common crime to steal the private vehicles. So we also have to be mindful of that to ensure that you secure your vehicles, etc. All the things that we're doing, we're looking also at the law. My take on the current gun law in this country, and it is more stringent than Barbados, than St. Lucia, than Antigua. The only two islands I believe are St. Kitts and Dominica. But what you see that a number of times people are charged and brought before the court and vulnerability matters. And they get a partner. And people hide behind what they call sentencing guidelines. When it is clear that if a particular offense is prevalent, especially one that relates to the taking of human life and creating an environment of trepidation, all you have to do is to state reasons why you're departing from the sentencing guidelines. And there's nothing wrong in giving a custodial sentence for a first offender who is brought before the court for a very serious matter. And I'm saying again, we're declaring gun violence as the major threat. It's a priority for the ministry, and for the police, and for the government. So why not, if we're really serious about doing that matter, why not all of us share or demonstrate that level of seriousness? Just a couple days ago, someone was caught by the police with a loaded firearm, and I want to commend the officers for that. It was simply executed because of just entering his house. And this one was found with cocaine, unadulterated, which is pure cocaine. Cocaine is a killer. Cocaine is not a spliff. You can make music. And a number of stolen items, and a loaded 9mm. Person gave a 1-year sentence, and 6 months for the cocaine to run concurrently. Rarely, the person might just end up spending 6 months in prison. The week before, something similar happened. There was a case where it was the first offense of that individual, and the magistrate then realizes that he is part of the society. It is Emily Duncan, one of my favorite philosophers, who actually has a piece that says and refers to consensus crime. It simply means when there is a common understanding within society that a particular crime is very serious or one is not serious. And there's consensus within all of us that going shooting a man, killing a man or a woman, having a gun, loaded, when there was a gun amnesty program, is a very serious crime, it's not so. So there's also debate as to some people, the person was found with a number of ammunition. But if you have ammunition, number of ammunition, the police did not find a gun, especially if you have different type of ammunition, for 9mm, for M16, etc. It means that they may have the gun somewhere hidden. They didn't have a gun. So the facts of the matter is very important. Police did, the magistrate departed from the sentencing guidelines and stated reason. That matter was appealed before the Supreme Court. Now, when a matter is taken before the magistrate court, and let us suppose the person is given a custodial sentence, and the person appeals, that person must be released pending the result of the Supreme Court's ruling. So, there was a hearing, and you had a panel of 3 appealing judges. And they ruled that the magistrate was right. He gave reasons. That person was given 2 years, and it was said in retrospect he should have gotten 3 years, even if it was his first offense. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the crime is a prevalent crime, it is very serious, not only in Dominica, but throughout the country. The reason, the purpose of the ministry really is try to educate the public. Because there's a lot of things being said out there from people who do not know what they're talking about. Right. And so we live in an era where what we hear, we believe what we want, and the truth is an offense. And the one man who says the truth may be an offense, but not a crime. And that's, so all of us understand that for us to have a sense of seriousness, but not only the police and the government, but all of us have a role to play, and all of us who have roles to play, who are assigned with tasks, especially those of us who have been paid for that task, must demonstrate that level of gravitas. We have a gun honesty program. It was reported 5, but I know 6 from what I know, 5 who actually surrendered. All these things that we're doing and give people the chance, the choice. Now, it's time for action. We have been talking a lot. We're providing the police with additional mobility vehicles. And I want to say again that every time I go to the Prime Minister and ask him for resources for the police, he always improves. So, Mr. Deputy, I also spoke to the Commissioner. We're hoping, not hoping, the vehicles are on the way. They have left up the last time I checked, they were in Dominica Republic. So by the 9th of October, we're going to have 10 additional vehicles. Now, I asked for more, and the Prime Minister so approved. That'll take some more time. But let us place on the record that the police must treat the vehicles the same way they treat their private vehicles. And I've already mandated the Permanent Secretary that there has to be accountability for the use of state resources. That if you're not a assigned driver to a police vehicle and you take the vehicle and you damage it, you have to pay for the damage. And all accidents of police vehicles need to be reported. And you have to go back to the days, Mr. Deputy, Assistant Chief already, of having a log for the vehicles. So every driver who takes over the vehicle has to ensure that the log is updated, and there's no inspect the vehicle. That's what we used to do inside. There's no bunks. I feel like trying something like me, when we were taking over in the morning, and the bunks they get in the corner, because when you go down to the gas, by the pump, they get gas. Even though I go drive, the bunks are inside there. Right? And Mr. Bunks that they put that they're well washed. My big eyes not useless. I saw that bunks. That was nothing. So I'm saying that these are things, I'm being generous. These are things that we need to go back to because l'argent, government apprend there what c'est pas ça, and therefore you must take care of something, especially if it's not yours. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we provide resources. Sorry for being frank, but that nonsense of national government people have to stop. I want to also say before I end that those of you who are still thinking under illegal farms, when I understood from the chief, a lot of people hide now. Some people are coming every country. I don't know why. Well, yesterday, something very wonderful happened. When someone called the police, and the person apparently was scared to come to the police, to give the police the gun and the ammunition. 9 minutes later, serious gun. When the police was called on a number that was unknown, and there was a directive where people will be finding ammunition and the gun. And the police went that exact place and also the community, and the police was able to get the gun and the ammunition. And let us be honest with we need more citizens like that. So that is why it's important to keep the pressure. And so those of you who are thinking and still scared, you can do what was done yesterday. As I close, I'm going to just go back to the commencement of my presentation here this morning. When I said that Dominica has been defined by a tradition of peace, and that we should guard against the obsession over those incidents of bad moments. And then when somebody's shot, or Marshall is dead, that's an incident of a bad moment for all of us. But let us not get too obsessed over that, because that is not what we are. And I'm saying that when we look at the crime statistics, right? Crime, and we isolate the issue of the one related matters. Crime in other areas are at a historic low, Mr. Deputy Commissioner of Police. And rape, indecent assault, and cited rape will interfere with minors. And anybody who does that is not going to go to jail, but whatever you use to violate the life of a young child should be hold back. That too is done. Burglary, which of course was the most committed crime. In the early 90s and late 90s, averaging 1,300, 1,004. Last year was 273. This year so far, only 94. Let's think about it. 94. The city of Roseau, or the Roseau catchment area, namely Fokoli, Roseau Central, Goodwill. Historically, these are the areas where you have the most burglaries in Dominica. Historic growth, so far, 94. That's the lowest in the region, the lowest has been in the history of Dominica since our independence, since the days of Mr. Great, who so rest in peace, who lived when he was Chief Minister and Premier. I'm saying that as an indication as to what defines us as the people. Peace. So let us not make these incidents of gun violence define us. We can do more better than that. But if we don't act as we're doing now, we run the risk of having something similar to what obtains in other countries. That's what I want to say, and to say to you, members of the public, my apologies, but the public does not have the right to know every aspect of national security. And I have a responsibility to ensure that that remains so. If we do that, we will talk about everything that the police is going to do. It doesn't make sense to have national security, it doesn't make sense to have police. So let us all work together, cooperate with the police, and let us strive to continue to promote Dominica as the most peaceful part on earth. Again, the mission of the ministry and your government is one of public safety and peace, and anyone or any group who intend by way of their manifest behavior to disrupt that peace will be dealt with frontally. I thank you very much.
Mr. Ali Martinez, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, to give us some remarks.
General Ruben Blackmore, Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, Ms. Joan Commodore, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Legal Affairs, Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey James, Deputy Chief of Police, Acting, all the gazetted officers, rank and file of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, members of the media, the listening public. Good morning.
Good morning.
The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force has a mandate to rid the streets of illicit guns and ammunition. Members of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, with the support from the regional security system, have been engaged in exercises island-wide. To date, we have recovered 5 firearms and a sum of money which was seized for the purpose of investigations. The operation will continue. I must remind you that it is an offense to have any unlicensed firearm, any illegal firearm in your possession. The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force is not going to tolerate and will not tolerate any person who has in his or her possession a firearm without the prescribed license. We will not spare. Police force, members of the police force will not spare any effort in finding those persons and dealing with them in keeping with the provisions of the law. To ensure the continued tranquility of this, our island, we are open to any assistance to help us meet our objectives. We are therefore appealing to the citizenry, the churches, local groups, clubs, all civic-minded people to provide any information which will assist in the removal of these illegal weapons from our streets. I often say that there is no smart bullet. So all of us, it is the responsibility of all of us to join our efforts in getting rid of the illegal firearms which are on our streets. It would be remiss of me to not thank the officers who have been toiling to ensure that Dominica remains safe and peaceful. Officers, let's keep pushing. We will achieve our goal. To those with illegal firearms, be assured that we will not relent in our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I will now call on the Acting Deputy Chief of Police, Mr. Jeffrey James, to give a report.
Good morning, good afternoon to one and all. Now that I have said that, let me recognize the presence of the Minister, the Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, the Joan Commodore, the Permanent Secretary of that Ministry, ACPA Ali Maxime, and Antonio Moses, Gazetted Officers,
ASP Paul, ASP Hilliard, Timothy, and John Lewis. In our presence, the press and others, we recognize your presence and thank you for coming. Let me just dive straight into my presentation and remarks. The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force has embarked on a series of intensified police activities aimed at reducing the possession and callous use of illegal firearms in Dominica. Following a request for assistance to the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, a contingent of officers from the Regional Security System, RSS, as we commonly know it, was deployed to support our efforts. As you have heard from ACP Maxime, an operation named Clean Sweep is currently ongoing, and I wish to reiterate that the police will not relent in our efforts to rid the streets of illicit firearms and ammunition. Regarding the recent homicide in Portsmouth, where the lifeless body of Juwan Wana was found shot at his home in Glenville on Friday, September 26, 2025, an investigation is actively ongoing. 2 persons of interest are currently in police custody as we continue to investigate this matter. One crime is one too many, and the callous use of illegal firearms must come to an end. I must note or trigger your memory that the government of Dominica recently granted a gun and ammunition amnesty from July 16th to August 15th, 2025. Only this year, during which 6 illegal firearms and over 200 rounds of ammunition were surrendered to the police. We are thankful for the surrender of these weapons, but regrettably, there are more in the hands of criminals for nefarious use, and so we need to get them out of the hands of these criminals. Case in point, the recent shootings suggest that some individuals made it a calculated decision to retain these illegal firearms and have resorted to using them to commit crimes. Dominica has always been a peaceful country, and the Commonwealth Dominica Police Force will do everything in its power to ensure that it remains safe for all to enjoy and live. We will vigorously take measures to address this issue, and I repeat, this useless use of shootings must stop at once. It must stop. It must come to an end. We cannot tolerate no longer people are using illegal firearms to shoot and putting certain people at risk. It must come to an end. And as we said, it is a collective effort. The community, we and the police must come together to ensure that Dominica remains a peaceful place. We believe in partnership, as I said, with the community in our approach to bring this issue to an expected end. And so we solicit the assistance of the public in solving these crimes and bringing perpetrators to justice. I appeal to the public to continue partnering with the police and share any information on this crime or any other crime. The Crime Stoppers hotline number is 1-800-8477-TIPS. It's available for anyone wishing to remain anonymous when sharing information on any crime. I repeat the hotline number, Crime Stoppers, 1-800-8477-TIPS. I cannot end and not show gratitude to the efforts of the men from the Commonwealth Dominica Police Force and our regional contingent, the RSS, who are there with us. So let me say special thank you to them for their commitment and hard work in the cause, and that cause to rid the streets of illegal fire. And as the ACP said, we have an ongoing operation called Clean Sweep, and we will maintain our mandate, and we will succeed with the efforts of all, the community and the police. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would now like to direct the attention of the press. Gigi, can you please read the press? Seeing some of the firearms that were confiscated during the raids. So I invite members of the press to go and have a look. did you maybe want to leave them in a small group? Thank you. We don't take any interactions from the press if you have any questions.
Question
Sure.
to the Minister of National Security. Mr. Blackwell, any updates on the CCTV cameras within the city or under the cliff to start with? Any idea? Because I would imagine these will help in helping.
Sorry, I'm not going to as a minister, certainly because I do not talk about public when about risks. Actually, necessarily, we have begun and we're also ensuring that in our stations, our station also police commissioner and his management team can see everything that's happening at the police stations for the country. How many stations have we done so far? 3. So far we have done 3 of the main police stations, and we have only points throughout the country, with no exception, where cameras will be installed. And our expectation is to have that done before the independence, but we have to ensure we get the best cameras for that, with the competence capture everything. During the night. So yes, I must speak about that particular intervention. Yes.
And the body cameras for the police in the future?
Body cameras for the police. Now, going forward, I mean, that is something that we have to explore. So I believe if you have body cameras for the police, you provide transparency for both the police and the public. And so that is something that is, of course, is worthy of being explored. What we're doing now is ensuring that our streets are properly monitored, and our stations are properly monitored. And yes, but that is a futuristic, but also a very important thing to think about. And step by step, to say further, the issue of driving under the influence of alcohol, that is something that we have to ensure that, because there's nothing in the law that prevents the police now. If somebody is suspected for driving drunk, you can bring the person to the nearest position or the nearest clinic to get sample of the person in the person's blood. The law says that. But we're also working now on the laws, because the issue of drunk driving also causes lives, not only if illegal fine, but lives. So let's look at all the issue of public safety that we could address going forward. And I believe the camera will be useful too. But yes, we're working on that. And don't ask me what they're going to be. Maybe you might see them. I'm not going to see them right now.
My question is also to you as well, Minister.
Okay, so now we can ask the question.
Earlier in the year, in July, when the Prime Minister waged war against violence in Dominica, we heard of the 7-point plan, and you highlighted some of the measures that have already taken steps, such as the tinting of the vehicles. Two of the measures I'd like to inquire about is the hotline, the confidentiality hotline, where $1,000 will be granted for calling in and placing the tips of anyone. I'd like to find out thus far, 2 months later, have you all yielded any success from that hotline? As well as the Minister, you spoke about the slap on the wrist for people who commit those crimes. We also heard about the engagement of a special prosecutor here in Dominica. I'd like to find out an update on that, please.
Okay. Fair question. As I said, you're from Mao, you're from the area now, so you can ask me a question you want. So, the issue of, let me start with the last question, what is so significant, of the engagement of a special prosecutor to deal specifically with vulnerable matters. Yes, we have finalized the terms of reference, yes, for that. We have done that, and we have identified the person. We're going through the terms of reference and contractual terms in terms of how much is actually would like to be paid, but that has to be negotiated between himself and the secretary that's been on. So yes, that is and the issue of we ask a customer hotline, I think the police can give a reference to that. In terms of the $1,000, I think it was a bold and to me, very smart offer to have been made, but I heard people, the same folks who were talking about we need to address the matter cinema. My life doesn't work at all, the money I'm talking about. You see? How serious we are. So it is still there, and we're going to utilize it, and we show about the hotline. As I said yesterday, somebody called and said that I'm gone, but I frequently to arrest me. Understand? And the person did not disclose that number they called from. The person said, well, the person going there with the ammunition, and the person was advised to remove the magazine from the gun and disengage it, make it safe. And the police went there and found a high-powered handgun, one shot at video, the person in the right place. So that was the person with the hotline also. So in terms of detail, I'm not a police officer. I am not involved in the granular detail of the operation of this force. So as to how effective the hotline is, I think maybe the deputy will
To begin, let me just repeat the hotline number before I answer the question. It's 1-800-8477-TIPS. And it has been working. We have received several tips, not really only related to gun crimes or possession of illegal firearms, but other crimes, and we have been using it effectively. As a matter of fact, there is a team that is put in place to manage that hotline. So it is working. And as for the reward for the firearms that were surrendered, that too has worked. We have given one individual who caused a firearm to be recovered. We have paid him the sum that was advertised. So that has worked to a certain extent. Thank you.
My question is to the Honorable Minister. So it's very interesting that you spoke about a slap on the wrist by magistrates, and it's also very interesting that you mentioned where the Court of Appeal upheld a decision of a magistrate who incarcerated an individual, a first-time offender. However, after this very interesting ruling, a magistrate basically gave another individual a slap on the wrist. How do you fathom such rulings as you go about your ministry and also the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the police, fighting crime, gun violence, where the decisions of certain magistrates are not in keeping with what you are expecting and the country is expecting?
Very interesting that you use the word fathom. Fathom. I believe that it's for all of us to have a real profound understanding of the situation within the spirit and connotation of the word fathom. So the fact that is for all of us to understand in the most profound manner the situation. But I'm not there to cast aspersion over the court. I believe it's for us to have an appreciation of the society that we live in, and that what makes sentencing relevant is that the sentence must suit the crime, and it must serve as a deterrent to potential offenders. So it's up to the individual magistrate to look within his or herself to have an understanding as to what is at stake. So the only reason I made reference to that was to bring up there that all of us have a role to play. And I hold fundamentally, and in my appreciation and understanding as to how the law operates and the interplay that exists between the law and social organization, to which, of course, the court belongs. The court has a fundamental core obligation to society. And therefore, the sentences that we lay down will determine the kind of society that we create, and all of us have to live in the society we create. There's something about it. So I think it's something that calls for a more profound, as you use the word, fathom, profound understanding as to what is at stake with that point. And that is why the ministry will continue to do what it has to do, because just last week, through the instrumentality of MDP, we organized what we call case management, two-day training program with all the magistrates and the judicial officers and everybody within the court. And fundamental to case management is the involvement of the judge and the magistrate from the time a matter is filed to the conclusion of the matter. So you will have an understanding of the matter and the potential problems that may emerge, and how can you resolve this problem that you have identified. So we will provide all this training, but ultimately, the person sitting on the bench has control of the court, not scaring the Prime Minister or the Minister. We can talk about it as citizens, as a minister. I can talk about it, but without casting aspersion. What I'm saying is a situation that calls for setting aside, there's no room for any element of indifference or cowardice. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Minister, we may also want to, because I know the last press conference that we were there was the issue of I did ask this issue of the magistrate, and finally the magistrate has taken an oath and started sitting today. Maybe you want to speak about that, sir, please.
Okay. We, as you know, as part of some of the action government is taking and will continue to take is the engagement of additional magistrates. Last week Wednesday, 3 candidates were interviewed, or the week before, 3 candidates were interviewed. We also have a former police officer who was a lawyer, who actually retired and working overseas, was also expressed an interest in being a magistrate. My advice is that it should apply, and the intention is to engage the magistrates, and to ensure that we have the most magistrates in the history of this country. One thing that has to be seen as a deliberate intention of the government to ensure that matters are disposed of quickly and serious matters like gun crimes can be dealt with swiftly. We have 6 independent court at the national. It is that 6 courts can operate independently. So we are striving to have 9 magistrates. And we have started the High Court, and I want to take the opportunity to commend the magistrate for being there. I have been to the High Court 3 times up to last night. I have been after it, and the magistrate and the clerk and the officers were there doing the work. They were providing the lights outside, and again, advising police to ensure that outside security continues, so you can maintain a sense of seriousness. And I understood all that is being done to ensure that matters can be disposed of quickly. And even during hearing, I was told the night before last, were here in the court. You understand? And all different applications. So the night court in itself provides for greater utility of the court. And anybody who's interested in advancing the issues of justice must support night court. Let me just say further. The notion that night court was just pushed out there arbitrarily and abruptly fundamentally untrue and misplaced. It's not the first time I've had night court. And night court has been spoken about. And a year and a half ago, I think was it, I had a meeting with the Bar Association at their request in my office. Some of the items that we discussed, night court, and the passing once and for all of the legal professions bill, and a number of other issues. The Bar Association put on the table the need for additional magistrates, etc. that we discussed. And a few months ago, the minister asked the permanent secretary, instructed the permanent secretary to engage the Bar Association and to bring everybody on board in terms of going back to the night court for a number of reasons. And so it wasn't something that was arbitrarily done. And there's some who maybe they believe that delays in matters work to the disadvantage. Understand? So anything that the state does to actually mitigate against that, they will oppose it. But any attorney who's interested in his client will appreciate any attempt that the courts make, the state makes, to provide greater utility of the court and greater access of the court services. Okay? I'll do the also.
Any other questions? Honorable Minister, I call you now to give the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much to the media fraternity. Thank you to the Deputy Chief of Police and the Assistant Commissioners and the other officers over there, assistant officers over there, and the Inspector was also there. Thank you very much for the presence. And I want to take the opportunity also to really big up the media because you have been always very, very diligent in what you do. What I would appreciate going forward to know certain things that the Minister can talk about. And I want to not dispel, because it's difficult. Because I don't believe that social media platforms, they are good. And I also believe that it has gotten to a point where social media actually has surpassed our intellectual capacity to an extent. Because the kind of things we put on social media, and the intention of social media is very good to allow for better relationship to be forged. I mean, socially and within the business and community, respecting as to how far you are from the shadow or the business space. But we use it to put things that are not true. To dispel, I did not see it fit at the time when the request was made to bring in additional support for the police. Not because that the police is weak, but I cannot detail what the police submitted to me that they wanted to do and the additional resources that they needed. I mean, the ministry on the instruction made the request for additional support over 4 weeks now. But I was not going to say it to the public. And of course, the Prime Minister has to be advised, and I think the Prime Minister clearance. The notion that it was done without the knowledge of the Minister, the police, is another attempt to cause discord and to shift focus on the issue that is important. It was submission, or when the Minister met the police chief, the police chief made a submission, requirement, I have my possession, a letter from the Commissioner of Police, so requested, and I had a discussion with the head of RSS, and of course instructed the Minister to provide the media for such support. So that's how we operate, but I was not going to discuss that in the public. But I believe at the time, that it was not useful to what the intention of the operation. And I believe that in itself, the hoopla that was created and the selling out that was created will inevitably hurt subsequent operations. And I want to say also there's a number of times we have had foreign troops on our soil in operation. It had to be done, it had to be done. You know what I'm saying? And I was saying that the new deal has to understand that. And also the public has to understand that the right to know sometimes has to be balanced against national security and public interest. So I was not going to do it, and I was still, when I was the PS and police, I was still not in behind God about it today. To be quite honest with you. Because my focus is to do everything possible to get the folks for less than about peace. And I will say that finally. So thank you very much for being here. All of us have a role to play in ensuring that we confront this threat to our peace. Gun violence is the priority focus of the ministry and the government as far as the threat to our public peace and safety is concerned. Thank you very much.
You have just heard the press conference of the Dominica Police Force. With this, we say goodbye and thanks for viewing.